Hey, it's Navid here, and in this session, you'll learn how to master AI in business and content creation from an 8-figure founder. I'm really excited to be joined by Eric Siu. He's the CEO of Single Grain. He's a visionary digital marketing expert known for his innovative use of AI technologies to drive business growth. Eric is really forward-thinking when it comes to a lot of stuff in marketing. He's been in the game for a very long time. So we are very fortunate to have him on for this AI for Creators series to share in real time what he's doing, where he's implementing AI, what kind of results it drives, and so much more, and also what not to use AI for. So without further ado, let's dive into the session here. All right, warm welcome to the session, Eric.
Thanks for having me, Navid.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this one. I know you have been in this space for a long time. I believe we even did an interview like many years ago for your podcast, I guess your old podcast, and you have been doing marketing for a long time. So how did you get into AI? Was it always like positive for you to dive into it and embrace it in your business?
Yeah, on the AI sides, and first of all, thanks for having me again. I would just say it feels like when mobile came out in 2010 or so, and it also feels like when the internet first came out, it's like a new paradigm shift. And so a lot of people would talk about it. I was more interested in how do we find practical business use cases for it, because we've been in this space for a while. It's like, it's nice to talk about trends and all that. It's nice to hop on the trend and try to be popular. But at the end of the day, I just wanted to see if it could help me grow my business. So I have a lot of use cases that I'm happy to share, and they're helping us drive actual business outcomes.
Yeah, totally. Maybe we can talk a little bit before and after. Like, well, how was it before? What was your workflow before in terms of, I know you produce a lot of content for Single Grain. You have a podcast with Neil Patel Marketing School. I think you have your own YouTube channel now. You do a lot of content basically. So maybe before AI, and then going into like how it is now with AI to produce all of its stuff and what you are getting done. I think that will be a great breakdown.
Yeah. So I will say the most tangible one is we were spending a lot of money on writers, and the writers would take a long time for our blog. And I'll actually share my screen if that's helpful.
Yeah, I got it up here. Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. So like, this is our Single Grain blog. This is the ad agency that I have, right? And for example, for marketing school, we release a new episode every single day. Previously, we weren't even making these blog posts because it's every single day. Neil and I are talking about the latest trends in marketing. Now we are. So now with the advent of AI, so this, for example, this is actually all written by AI. This is taken from our AI transcript for our podcast, and then we load it into an AI like a ChatGPT, for example. We say, make this into a blog post. And then a human being will come in, they'll add images, they'll add links, they'll fact check it, and they might add some additional content. But 60 to 70% is driven by AI. And this section is driving more traffic. Also, the cost per blog post is maybe 50 to 70% less, and we're getting these out a lot faster. And so everything's just faster and better.
Do you integrate that with the OpenAI's API or something like that? Or how are you doing that for getting it there?
Yeah.
Manual work.
Correct. So this one would be more manual, and we use OpenAI's for it, but we have a fully automated solution where we leverage OpenAI's API, and that's Programmatic SEO.
So let's talk a little bit about that. I haven't heard too many people talk about this kind of SEO. Is that something you started doing recently, or what? Tell me a little bit more about it.
Yeah. So when you book travel, Navid, so when you go to, which websites do you go to book travel or look for places to eat?
All right. I go to book travel, maybe Skyscanner I do use a lot. Sometimes I go directly to the website, but I usually compare flights and stuff like that, I would say, on Skyscanner.
Okay, for example, if you're looking for things to do in Japan or things to eat in Rome or places to stay in Stockholm, for example, right? You are going to these websites that have created these hundreds, if not thousands or millions of pages where these are high intent, lower funnel keywords. And so the keywords that I gave you an example of, and you're basically able to create these pages at scale. You create a template for it, you design a template, and then you have OpenAI's API create the content using ChatGPT for those pages, right? But here's the challenge. When you release thousands of these pages, a lot of them are going to be crap content, right? Even with AI. And so we created a tool internally to monitor the quality of these pages at scale. And then what we'll do is if we don't think the quality meets the bar, even though we launched the pages, we'll delete the pages. If you're going to scale SEO, you got to make sure you're scaling quality control as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's what Google has said as well. They were against AI a little bit in the beginning, the content that comes out, and now they are like, as long as it's good, I mean, then we're gonna let it be. It's good for humans, basically. So, what kind of content are you creating with this method? I know that's probably a lot of pages for your agency, right? That you need for search. I'm assuming that at least.
Correct. Yeah. So I'll give you an example. So I'm gonna share screen again. Okay. So let's say we're optimizing for the keyword CRO services, which is conversion rate optimization services. So what we'll do is you can see that the logos that we have over here, the companies we work with. Here's the content that's created by AI, right? And then over here too. And what we'll do is we'll also layer on podcast episodes or YouTube. So we're developing something right now that will automatically update these pages. So if it talks about e-commerce, we're going to say, okay, find episodes that Eric put out for the podcast or his YouTube from the last 90 days that relate to e-commerce and also summarize it. And so we're updating these pages at scale too. And we're doing a little CRO at scale too, because what we're doing as well is we are trying to make sure the logos, if we're talking about e-commerce, are only the e-commerce logos that we've worked with to build trust.
Very interesting. Yeah, no, I love this. This is cool. I just wanted to ask, is that something, I know this is for an agency, you need to have a lot of people coming in there, but for a content creator, is that something that could be applicable? Is that something you can see other people embracing more and using this strategy?
I think it depends on the industry, right? And so I would say for us, it makes sense for our business. Yeah. And if you're a travel company, it makes sense for your business. If there is a lot of, okay, let's use mine as an example. So you might have digital marketing agencies, the main keyword. You might have digital marketing services, digital marketing management, digital marketing consultant. So you just have to think about your niche, how many permutations you can create for high intent keywords. And then you can figure out if this makes sense for you. Because to your point, it doesn't make sense for everyone. But also to answer your question directly, what I showed you earlier, any content creator can do this. So for example, Navid, this interview that we're doing, I don't know if it's 45 minutes or an hour or whatever it is exactly, but we can take this and make this AI generated content over here, this AI enhanced content. And let me show you some results. So the pizza blog post I shared earlier from the marketing school content, I think we can take this webinar and then you can basically make it into a piece of content like this one over here. And then we can create a lot more of these for a lot cheaper and a lot faster. Make sense?
It's pretty innovative, that this approach, because what do you think in the age of AI, what's going to happen? Do you have any thoughts what's going to happen long term to the SEO and how valuable that might be in the future?
I think what we're doing right now, search is just going to change in the next, let's call it 5 years or so. Because if you think about it, since maybe pretty close to how long we've been alive, right? So the last 30 years or so, it's been the same blue links, the same 10 results or so. It's overdue for a change. And I don't know if it's going to be through a chat interface, or I don't know if it's going to be through like search generative experience, which is what Google has right now.
Yeah, because a lot of people now are going to go to ChatGPT and tools like this, and they can get their information. I think that's the same. Like if you want to have information from a book today, or like the top books on copywriting or something like that, there's platforms like Blinkist and things like that. I think they might be in trouble, actually. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. I had a conversation with some other guests and they were like sharing the same thoughts. Like, why would you go there? Because you can get a summary of these books pretty easily through ChatGPT and Bard or whatever you're using.
I think a lot of these companies, we just literally before this one, we're talking with a company. They did translations and they're like, we're in trouble now. And so they're trying to give these translations for a lot cheaper. They used to work with enterprises. Now they know they have to work with smaller people, like normal people like you and me, right? Because the cost to do translation is coming down a lot. And so what I think for people like you and me, if we want to continue to evolve as creators is, we have to do interesting things so we can tell interesting stories, and we have to have data to back it up. And as long as we have those two things, because stories is creative and data is one of the X factors when it comes to being able to survive in an AI-led world, I think you'll be fine.
Yeah. But on an interesting note is like for your agency, you have been doing it for a long time. You produce articles and things like this. But for your personal brand, you do a lot of video-based content these days. I don't know what you would recommend someone to get started with. I think the SEO game is pretty tough, right? The YouTube algorithm is more favorable to newer creators. You can be pushed there. you can also create a lot of short form content from this long form content you are creating. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that and also breaking down your full workflow on this.
Yeah, so I'm just pulling up my screen over here again. So let's also share the audio too. All right, do you see this?
Yes, I can see it. I'm not sure if the audio is going to work now, but let's see.
I think it will.
Que los compradores que ganan entre 100 y 200 mil anticipan gastar un 2% más que el año pasado. Aquellos con ingresos entre 50 y 99 mil dólares esperan gastar un 26%.
So my point is, that's my voice. And there's also Neil's voice in here too. So we launched a marketing school Spanish version, and we're using a tool called rask.ai. That's rask.ai. It doesn't cost a lot of money. So
okay, nice.
Yeah, that's one thing we're doing.
So how is this different than like 11 Labs or something like this?
Well, it's funny. I just got off a newsletter, Mastermind, and someone was talking about 11 Labs. I don't think it's that different. So I think a lot of this stuff is going to be commoditized, and it's just going to be how we do things moving forward. So we just want to get ahead of it right now so we can land grab as much as we can.
How much does your episodes are short on this one, but how much does it cost typically to produce an episode?
I actually don't know right now. I just told my team to just go ahead and go explore this. I don't think it's that expensive, but here's what I'll tell you. If you look at this screen over here, so I've been doing more, I've had my YouTube channel for a little bit, right? So this is like an interview I did with Alex Ramosi. So now it's like, okay, how do we translate this? How do we chop it up, to your point, for shorts? And we made a clips channel. That channel is doing really well now. So I think you and I as marketers, we need to continue to evolve. And the good thing is marketing hasn't really changed a lot in the last 10 years or so. A lot of the channels are still the same. It's just a matter of how can you just continue to raise the quality bar over time.
Yeah, no, I see what you're doing. Before, you didn't do a lot of in-person stuff. I think that is really cool for YouTube. A lot of people are doing it now. So, but with Neil, because it's like every day, I think you're using, you told me in the pre-chat, you're using Riverside, right? Have you seen the benefits of doing the in-person one in terms of more YouTube views? Of course, the connection is better than doing it remotely, but anything you'd like to share there?
I think people are just used to watching talking heads. They don't like watching talking heads. And so what I've seen in my videos is that the retention is better on a percentage basis, these in-person ones versus the talking heads, like how we're doing right now. Even though you have a very high quality background, you look great. I have a pretty good background as well. I just think people are tired of it.
Yeah, no, I think I tell my students for my virtual selling mastery, and when I've hosted a lot of virtual events, like the day and age of just using low quality Zoom videos is over. Because if you want to publish this on YouTube, you're going to compete with a lot of other people. Like it's not like 2013 or 2014 anymore. So you need to like step it up. There's a lot of media companies publishing on these platforms. And how are you going to stand out as a little creator or something like this? It's pretty tough. So I think that's why you need to raise the quality. At least that's my opinion.
Here's what's interesting, Navid. You made an interesting point. So in 2013, when I published on YouTube, I published all crappy videos. They would all get a lot of views, right? And now people are like complaining. It's like, yeah, it's because the bar has been raised and the bar is going to continue to raise. And you should expect it to raise because people want to see quality content and you want to watch quality content too.
Yeah, totally. I remember my first videos. I have some of them on YouTube, I believe that. They're not great quality. And I had one even with Robert Greene is like 170,000 views or something like this. And it's really bad quality. But in that time, I didn't think it mattered. I think you could have stepped it up back then too, but it was more difficult to do remote stuff. Now, as you said, you're using Riverside. I guess you can also, you get the transcript, you get everything to chop it up very quickly. So what do you do? Like you normally produce that with Neil and then you take that to the blog and things like that. Is that kind of normally your workflow?
Yeah. So the workflow for marketing school is Neil and we record basically twice a month and they're 1 hour sessions each time and each episode's 5 to 10 minutes or so. And then we'll use Riverside to do that. And then Riverside, the writers will take the transcriptions from each episode and then we'll do the AI enhanced content that I showed you. And then you can see the graph going up into the right for SEO purposes. So that's how we do it for marketing school. And then Neil has just moved half a mile away from me. I just moved back to LA. He just moved back to LA. So we're just like, okay, going back to the point on quality, how do we raise the bar for the quality of the podcast? So instead of 5 minutes, we want to make the episodes 15 minutes each. We want to talk about experiments we were running, stories we've heard, or other trends that we're seeing, bring in other guests as well. But we want to do more in person. And we think we can do a lot better than we're currently doing right now.
Do you think you're going to see the differences between 5 minutes and 15 minutes in terms of what the people are expecting on your marketing school podcast? I guess people are used to it. They have been checking it out for a long time now. You have it for many years. And what do you think the format change is going to mean?
It's interesting because, and that's a good question. It's interesting because most people, they like the 5 minutes, but what you hear from those people is like they stop listening after a while. They got what they needed. But if we're going more in depth, we're sharing more stories, we're sharing more data, and I think that's going to be more interesting and more useful for people. Plus 15 minutes versus 5 minutes, we get more ad load too. So that's good for us from a monetary standpoint.
Totally. I would love to see the long form thing with Neil. Neil doesn't do a lot of long form stuff. So would be cool. You do more long form, Eric, on your channels. But Neil, I mean, I watch sometimes. I mean, sometimes I have in the background, I check out some podcasts. Man, they are like, even on your show, they are 2 hours sometimes, right?
Yep.
So I think,
it's hard for me to listen to 2 hours. I don't know about you. So
no, I don't listen fully to the 2 hour ones, but I would say like I check out some of it. But I think it's good for the YouTube algorithm. I see a lot of people getting a lot of views. Is that what you have found as well? Because of the retention, right? They are staying for longer time to watch, even though they're not staying for 2 hours. Maybe they are staying for 30 minutes. That's still better retention than someone staying 100% of a 15-minute video, right? So I think that is beneficial.
Well, I mean, like the Alex Hormozi video, I think it's 16 minutes average watch time. And then my usual shorter video is 5 minutes or so. It's only 2 minute watch time. And so we're able to keep them on the platform. That's what they ultimately want at the end of the day. One of my friends is a YouTuber. He did a good job of explaining this. He's like, at the end of the day, if you want to grow on YouTube, you have to become an employee of YouTube. And what that means is if you're inconsistent, that means you're not a reliable employee. And then if you're talking about a lot of different things, you're not a reliable employee. So you have to be reliable over a long period of time, talking about the same thing. And that's how you're ultimately going to grow. And then they'll give you credit for it.
Yeah. I think it's do you notice when you have around the same topic for a while or a similar guests or something, then you start like starts picking up in the YouTube algorithm. I think that's what I say. I'm doing an experiment with this series with I don't think anyone has so much AI related content for creators, entrepreneurs as I will have with these experts. I'm bringing on like yourself. So just doing an experiment, see if this works. Even if it doesn't, I'm going to continue with it to basically see if it picks up eventually. So
I think that's a good approach as long as you're consistent with it. I'll just tell you my biggest mistake with YouTube. And I had videos that would get 300, 400, 500,000 views or so. And a lot of them would just get 20, 30, 40,000 views, which is a lot, right? Now I'm lucky if I get like a couple thousand because I'm still in the bad graces of YouTube right now because I stopped being consistent. And I started talking about different things. Like I started talking about blockchain. I started talking about outside of marketing. I started talking about startups and business and all that, right? And I think after that, it's like, okay, this guy's just not reliable. And so I lost the good graces. I'll give you an example. My friend, he's been posting shorts on YouTube since September of 2022. And they're very high quality. He was probably spending multiple 5 figures a month. He had to tell the stories for each one. It was all scripted. It was nicely edited and all that. And he wasn't getting views for probably 8 or 9 months or so. But then I look at his channel now, he has one video, 11 million views, another one, 2 million views, another one, 1 million views. And he's like, my theory is YouTube puts you in jail until it's ready to release you.
I love this. This is a great. I'm laughing because I think I have put myself in this zone because I was not consistent for a while. I've never really been consistent on YouTube, to be honest, but I was getting great. I used to do videos with like Stu McLaren, Ryan Levesque. They did really well for promoting their products and sharing good stuff. But then I didn't publish for a few years. And then I started recently publish some to kind of test. They're not getting a ton of traction, but I think with time, it's going to help because I know how the platform works. I think the reason before I didn't do that well, it was because it was like a lot of steps. You have to do the description, you have to do the tags. Now, I think I like producing this main content, like doing stuff with you here, but I didn't like the supporting content, doing the tags for you to doing the description. Now with AI, it can help with all of that. So I think that's kind of in the thing. I'm more excited now than ever to produce content, actually. I'm sure you feel the same way.
I feel good because, I mean, also because we've gotten a little older in this space and what you've realized is that it isn't about trying the new shiny thing all the time. It's really about being consistent over not 1 decade, but 2 decades or 3 decades. And then those are the people that will stick around. Because I did a podcast interview. I'm looking at my YouTube channel right now with Mark Manson. So he wrote The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F. And we're just like, he's been in the game longer than I have. He's in his 40s now. And I'm just like, it's really about playing the long game much longer than other people. And then you will win.
I think I checked out this session actually on your podcast, but I think he said something that he's not he was like very early with the SEO game and getting a lot of traffic to his blog, and that kind of helped him grow and becoming a New York Times bestselling author and all this. And now he's going all in on YouTube because he feels that's much better opportunity to grow. I don't know if you have something to share about that, because you're big in the SEO space with your agency and stuff like that. But
yeah,
I don't know.
So,
I mean, it's pretty hard for new people to get into that game.
Yeah, I wouldn't start with SEO if I were to start today. I think I would start with what I'm used to. So I like podcasting like this, or if I were to just focus purely on business, I would just go on LinkedIn and Twitter every day. I would just keep writing. And then because I've done over 400 of these interviews, I would do podcasts all day because I'm just used to it. I would not start with SEO unless I had resources to go buy a website. If I could go buy a website, it has strong domain authority, then I might do some of the AI stuff that I'm talking about and put it there. But if I wanted to focus on one thing right now, if starting from scratch with nothing, probably be LinkedIn, just because it fits my business model. What Mark said with YouTube is that he sees it's the next biggest thing for the next 10 years or so. And that's why he's investing a lot of money. He's flying to places to shoot. There's complete stories where he's basically coaching people. There's a storyline. And if he turns you around, he'll also give you $10,000. Like, let's say you have an alcohol problem, or let's say you're too scared to drive or something. He's creating a show, and he's creating entertainment. Whereas you and I were more educators.
Yeah, but I think he's educating, but he's like doing both a little bit. That's why some of his videos edutainment, exactly. I think that's why some of his videos are getting a lot of views already. He doesn't have a ton of content, but he's doing it pretty quickly. But how are you producing the content for your everyday stuff? If let's say you would start on LinkedIn, would you leverage AI for some of this as well for certain things in the process?
You know what's interesting? So the other day I was with my chief of staff, and we were in the room and we're looking at multiple people that do well on LinkedIn. And some of them don't even have a lot of followers, but they're getting 1,000 likes, 1,500 likes. So I went to one person's account. I just clicked on the post section, and I pressed Command A, and it selected everything. And I just dumped it into ChatGPT, and I said, hey, tell me what this person's format is for all of his posts, right? And it's like, okay, here's a hook over here, problem solving. And then it just says, here's how it's structured. And I was like, I want an example for each one that you're saying is part of the structure. And then now I have this person's structure. And for me, now I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to emulate that and just do it every day consistently for 30 days, maybe 60 days. And hopefully I get better. And that's how I'm going to play the game.
No, I think this is the best thing. I use it all the time for format. It's the best thing. ChatGPT is really good for that. I don't like it as much for my, let's say, blog posts or stuff like that. I think it's great for format, outlines, and whatnot. But yeah, I think it's just taking a newsletter format as well. I've done this in the past. Or as you said, a really popular LinkedIn post, and I'm just getting exactly like Justin Welch, for example. He produces a lot of content there. I will just take his format and get it out. I have a template that I could follow, not like copy his content, but I could just post in this style, and hopefully it will work. Like, I have to reiterate and find my voice on the platform, of course. But do you use it as for content creation as well, in terms of actually maybe the outlines, but also the writing process, like copywriting and things like that? Do you use AI for this?
Yeah, so I mainly use it for outlines. I think for the writing piece I showed you earlier on the AI enhanced piece where it pulls from the transcriptions and then the programmatic stuff. I don't really use it for... We tried using it the team tried using it the other day. So someone sent a 44 question document this is a prospect, right? And they're well funded. And we just didn't want to answer the 44 questions. And so we just dumped it in ChatGPT and said, hey, can you just answer these 44 questions? It did an okay job. And so to your point, I don't think it does a good job yet. I think we're not quite there to say, oh, ChatGPT just write everything for me. So I don't do it for that.
Have you tried content at scale for blog writing? Because you have a lot of content on single grade. I could imagine that would be pretty useful. And I had Julia McCoy on this series, and she basically showed me some stuff. I was pretty impressed, because I could take this, let's say, a YouTube video link, and I could pull it in there. It writes this really in-depth 3,000 word blog post, and it's pretty much I would say it's like 85 to 90% done already. Or you can put in your keyword, or it's even coming up with it based on the idea you're putting in. And it's doing a damn good job. I was not expecting this from a tool that you don't give that much context to. So have you used tools like that, and what's your experience?
Yeah, we've tried it, I think, for a little bit, but the team said this isn't the right fit for us. That's all I remember them saying, because I did hear about the tool. I was like, oh, okay.
When was that, Eric? When did you try it?
Probably 2 months ago.
All right. I think it's just improved a lot, because I wasn't as impressed, I'm going to be honest, like early on with the tool. I tried it when it first came out. But just to your point to this, they used their own tool. And she said they got in 1 year, 600,000 a month traffic or something. I haven't verified that, so I don't want to.
Yeah.
But if they are getting that, that's pretty impressive to get from basically zero in 1 year, getting 600,000 a month traffic. I think that's pretty impressive.
I think it is impressive. I think the other thing is there's that tool. There's like another one I think called byword.ai. I just think it's a little risky to be built because at the end of the day, what's happening in the back end is like you're just really iterating on the prompts that you have. And so to me, it's like, how are you building a unique product or a unique platform even? We're getting into business a little bit, but I hope it goes well for them. And if it continues to do well for other people, maybe we'll try it again.
Yeah, I think when you have unique content like what we are doing here, if you have a podcast, it's a lot easier because that's not going to exist on the internet. When you're just going from a keyword and then trying to write something, then you have to be a little more careful. You have to add also thought leadership. You have to add some other things to that piece of content to make it really stand out, like maybe some stats or whatever that is. And I think it does that, but you can add some more stuff to it. And I think then it could probably be a really good piece that could
maybe we'll take another look at it. That's a good call out.
Yeah, I'm just experimenting a little bit with these tools to see what I'm going to use because I'm going to have now a lot of content from this series. I'm just thinking how I'm going to spread the word more and get it out there a little bit.
Yeah, you let me know how it goes.
I should do that. I should do that. I'll be the trial of this. But well, they are using it. So any other things you're using in your business to grow and then scale with AI?
Yeah, we use a conversational intelligence tool called Gong, and we're actually getting their AI version now where it will tell you where a client feels frustrated, right? Or maybe there's an upsell opportunity and then it'll alert the managers. So that's all happening now. Like here, I'll just show you what we have in some of these phone calls. So here, let me just share my screen again. And I love this stuff. So let's see. Okay, this is perfect. Check this out. Okay. So this is like a call with someone that we had, right? And then this is a discovery call. And you can see here, the call summarized. Okay, here's the meeting introduction. Here's the introduction and goals. The business needs over here, how much they have to spend and everything like that, who their competitors are, everything. This is basically a sales brief over here that's happening, right? And then there's like a highlights over here in terms of the next call, all that stuff. You can even ask it a little GPT over here. And the cool thing is now we're using the new Gong Engage. It will basically give the follow-up email. It'll create an action and say, hey, you need to follow up over here. Oh, by the way, here's the email copy to follow up. And then it'll jump the actions into a deal section. And so it's basically making sales a lot easier. Oh, and it'll say, oh, by the way, you should reach out to these people at this company over here too to increase your chances of winning this deal.
Love this. I love this. This is really cool. And I think, so just going back to something we shared earlier when you showed your podcast, I think that's really interesting as well when you translated or actually having your own voice in that and you don't speak, I assume you don't speak Spanish or something like that. So yeah, have you tried like HeyGen or something like that to actually get the video of this? I think that's here now, but I think it's going to be a lot cheaper in the future.
I think HeyGen is okay right now. It's because it's to the point where you and I can still tell it's AI. I think you give it another year or two, I think it'll be perfect. You can't even tell. So I want to wait to the moment where it's like you can't even tell, because even the marketing school thing I shared with you, it's like 80-90% there, because native Spanish speakers are like, okay, that part doesn't really make sense. Yeah, so totally.
I've tried this script as well. They had something in their software. It's not as good as these ones. That was like if I wanted to have a clip and just put in the text and it basically makes an AI voice on myself. But I was like 80% there with the tonality. It was not that great, for example. And maybe I would use it for like a blog post audio would be okay for it, but not for a podcast or something like that where you need to have more emotion. So but I think this is going to get better. I think this script is doing quite good in the AI space. I don't know if you guys, do you use it for your podcast, by the way, to edit and things like that?
We do use Descript. Yeah, I think it's a great product. I think, you know what I'll say is like, as we're talking through this, I'm just thinking through all these AI products are going to get a lot better from 80% to 99% in the next couple of years. And a lot of marketers in the last decade, because not a lot of marketing has changed, they've gone omni-channel. They're trying to hit a lot of different channels. I think what's going to happen is you're going to go omni-content, omni-languages as well. And that's going to be the next phase of getting more distribution, because that's what we're trying to do as marketers.
Yeah, and I think with in the YouTube platform specifically, let's say someone is coming to this video. We are speaking English now, so yeah, they can check out captions. I can have it in Spanish if I wanted to, but they're probably not gonna stick around. It's not the same connection as if they were watching in Spanish. So I think YouTube, they should put I think they're already working on this, but they are going to have basically. So someone coming to this video will be translated and things like that, because their retention is going to go through the roof. I think that's also exciting for us as creators, because we might not have to spend more time creating this content. We're actually going to have a better distribution, which is great.
That's correct. YouTube's incentivized, to your point. That's a really good point. They want people to stay on the platform. So why wouldn't they just translate it all for you and make it perfect for you?
Yeah, I think they should. And I think they are trying this probably on bigger creators. I could see this happening with Mr. Beast. He's dubbing his channels now to many languages, but imagine they could connect with him. It's like his voice is synced and everything. That would be a totally different level. And same with your podcast and things like that. We get so many more views. There's so many, because I feel like in the Spanish language and certain countries, they don't have a lot of content on these topics. So I think we could just reach more people. So for sure.
That's the move.
Yeah. So what else are you with AI in the future, for example? What's your thoughts on this? I think that's an interest. I've heard a lot of people say different things. Like the most extreme is that it's going to kill us all, but I'm interested to hear your take on this.
Yeah, I think it's just going to enhance. Here's a quote I remember. So I was at this YPO marketing event earlier this year, and basically someone that used to run, she was a chief data officer at L'Oreal. Her name's Saul Rashidi. And she made a good point. She said, look, there's 3 forms of AI. You have automated intelligence, you have augmented intelligence, and then you have artificial intelligence. Automated intelligence might just be like using Zapier. That kind of is using AI, right? Augmented intelligence is maybe like augmenting my voice or changing into another language or something like that. Artificial intelligence is actually like you're speaking to something and you're going back and forth, and it's almost like getting to the AGI. So 99.99%, like we're not even close to artificial general intelligence right now, but most stuff is either augmented intelligence or it's automated intelligence. And so a lot of people get that mixed up. So I think that's where we are right now. Where do I think it's going in 5-10 years? I think the way we do paid media is going to be a lot different. You're just going to let the machine do it. I think the X factor is going to be how creative can you be? How well can you tell stories? How well can you tell good stories with data? And I think the people that adopt AI will be 10 times more effective than someone that doesn't. And I think long-term, there's a book called, I think it's 21 Lessons for the 21st Century or something. And the guy has a thesis that there will be a useless class of human beings. Useless is a pretty strong word, but it's funny because about 1-2 months ago, I was seeing, we had a family gathering, and my rich uncle, he was like, you know what, Eric? Most humans are useless. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you only need so many Steve Jobs and Elon Musk. Most people don't do much. And then my cousin who works at the IRS, he's like, oh yeah, most people aren't that helpful, right? And I was just like, okay, so what do you do in that situation? Well, you're going to have the ones that drive a lot of value, and then you're going to have the ones that are probably getting a universal basic income. That's like 15, 20 plus, 30 years plus out. So I gave you the what's happening now, and I gave you the long-term version.
No, totally. I think if AI can replace you, maybe you weren't that valuable in the first place. At least right now, it's going to change as we go, right? AI is going to get better, but I think it can replace you now as a writer. Then you're probably a pretty crappy writer. You probably can't. You probably need to level up a little bit, or maybe leverage AI in some way to get a new job. Or like a copywriter, if you can get replaced, then you're probably not the best copywriter. I think that's how I see it. Like if you're really good at what you do, you're not going to get replaced. You're going to actually just enhance yourself or amplify yourself with AI. I think that's from hearing you speak, I think that's how you're using it in your business.
Yeah, look, everyone wants to win, but nobody wants to put in the work. And you're going to see that a lot more clearly in the next decade or so.
Yeah. And how do you use AI with your clients, the customer support piece? I think that's also AI-powered customer support. I'm sure we've heard a lot about it. There's some tools popping up left and right for it. But my opinion is a little bit that you need to have the human component, but I think you can enhance a lot of things. You can have knowledge bases. You can have these chat interfaces now and upload your knowledge. I'm just curious how you use this.
Yeah. So going back to the Gong again. So we use Gong from not only just a sales standpoint, but a client standpoint. It's kind of our client platform where we can see all the conversations that are happening. And there should be a situation where later it makes us an internal wiki instead of us having to document everything in Coda right now and make these standard operating procedures. I think it'll just say, hey, based on all the conversations that are happening in the company, these should be the critical standard operating procedures. And these are the critical videos to watch. And these people need to be trained on this. I think I just thought of this as we're doing this right now. It's like, I believe if you're a remote company, you should have an AI recorder in every single conversation. So it understands how your business is evolving over time.
Yeah, Stu McLaren actually shared more about this. He's the founder of Searchy, and what they do is you can upload your knowledge, you can have all your videos in there. So I think during a launch or something, he mentioned that he was busy or something, and his team was using an AI version of him where he had uploaded his knowledge for the team, and they could like basically chat with this version. I think what would be really cool in the future, and I think that's going to come, is like you can see yourself. You have an AI version of you, and it's like a video form or at least audio form, and you can just hear all this. The video form would be really cool, especially for your clients and students if you have courses.
Yep. We're going to do that for marketing school. Like you should do it for courses for sure. So for marketing school, how can we, for like $5 a month, have Neil and I training people at scale? And then this AI will never get frustrated if someone doesn't understand. It's just going to continue to try to train you. And it's updated with our latest content.
Man, that's such a good way to monetize. I've heard also CoachVox AI, Yori Fox has a great tool. And she basically shared that some of her customers, they are using it already to sell their knowledge, like for, let's say, $5 to $10 a month, because most people cannot afford. I mean, to hire Neil, that would be very expensive. To hire you would be very expensive. But to get your knowledge from, you have so many episodes, right? People are not going to have time to go through all this content. And then you have a little version for convenience, and they can just chat with this interface. And maybe in the future, they even see you and Neil pop up there and they see your face. But what tool would you use for this? Are you using custom, or are you using a tool that's already available?
We haven't, so we're going to explore doing this. I know there's a tool that allows you to do it. Here's what I'll say. There's a handful of people that reached out to me and say, hey, we've taken all your content already and made it into an LLM, but we need something like I think it was HeyGen. You need something like a HeyGen that's actually talking to you and you can go back and forth with it. That is true artificial intelligence.
Yeah. Okay. So you want to do it more. You don't just want to have a text-based chat. You want to actually have you and Neil come up there for the answer. So they see video form of you. I haven't seen a tool like this, to be honest. As I said, I Searchy do it. I think they might add this in the future, and then also CoachVox AI. I think that's what I've seen. I don't know if there's any. I think Arman, you know Arman Asadi, right? I think you.
Arman. Oh yeah.
He used to work for Neil, I believe, before for some stuff. But yeah, he's the founder of Steno. I think they do certain, not exactly this, but they're taking content and putting it in a database, and that's making it basically. Actually, you might want to chat to him about it. They're taking like content from podcasts and videos and events, and they are basically transcribing it and making it accessible in their database, and they basically can chat with you. But they don't have the video piece. I think that's what
okay. Here's what I'm here's what I'm seeing. I think Arman's a really smart guy. There's a lot of these are popping up right now. That's the third one that I heard of that does the same thing.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, there's a lot of AI SaaS that's popping up, but who's truly going to win? And it's really the ones that have proprietary data long term. And so it's a Google, for example, or Microsoft, like trillions and trillions of data. But I think people that are building these AI SaaS, and maybe there's not a main differentiator, maybe you're just in the back end, you're just adjusting your prompts and it's prompt engineering. That to me isn't so differentiated from someone that's building like a platform.
No, totally. I think I agree with you, and I am trying to. I like what Arman is doing. I hope this is the idea. I think they hope they iterate to actually get it right, because I'm trying to see the use case. Because I said, like, how can I use this? We are actually trying it out for the Summit series just to try it. He was kind enough to just do everything. We'll see how it goes with this. I'm gonna pioneer this a little bit for Summits, but I'm trying a lot of these. Yeah, I'm trying a lot of these platforms to just see what's out there. But I think to your point, I think it's pretty easy to do certain things like that. Just upload your knowledge. I don't know what your opinion on the new GPTs. They made the new announcement for OpenAI. That's like making some of these tools not as useful anymore.
That's my point. Yeah. A lot of these tools are going to go to the graveyard.
Yeah. Just to say something, like the control aspect, because when you're putting your data into OpenAI, you're not on the enterprise plan most likely as a creator. You're going to use the normal plus plan. So you're basically training the model with your data. So if that's something for customers and stuff, I don't think it's that great to do it, but I'm not sure what your opinion on all this is. I am interested to hear.
Yeah, I think going back to my point again, it's like the ones, okay, for example, Gong, right? So Gong, they have so many sales conversations, client conversations. They're able to now predict. They're able to figure out how to add more value to their customers. It's okay, no, this client's going to turn over here. This client's open for expansion. Oh, you should talk to these customers over here if you want to close this deal, right? That's really helpful to me. But I think the problem, like this reminds me of the course days back in the day where everyone was making courses in the marketing world, right? if you're going to build something for long term, you're going to have to think about what is the moat. Like Warren Buffett talks about having a moat around your business all the time. I'm failing to see the moat around a lot of these products, which I think in a year or two, they're going to go to the graveyard. So again, who has a data moat? Amazon has a data moat. Google has a data moat. Microsoft does. Even for our ad agency right now, I'm trying to figure out, okay, what is the moat what's the data moat that we're going to have? Well, we have a product that we used to have called ClickFlow, and ClickFlow would show you when you're losing traffic on content. Well, we can actually bring that back now and say, hey, you're losing traffic on this content. Click this button to upgrade. And we can see over time what actually works and why content decays and why content upgrades actually work. That's actually a little interesting.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because I saw some lists with like 6,000 plus AI tools. And of course, you don't need 6,000 tools to run any business. But what's interesting is that all these tools that we are used to, like HubSpot and Canva, even like commoditizing design and things like that, I think they are bringing a lot of AI features. So when they are doing that, they have already a solid business. They have been doing it for years. They're not going to go out of business like these companies anytime soon. But these new startups, they're just building on top of the OpenAI's API and don't have like a real solution. I think they are in danger, as you said. I think that's what I'm seeing. A lot of the tools I've been using for years, they're just bringing AI into it, and I love it. It's great.
Navid, there's I think back to the phrase platform risk. And so when you think about a lot of these Facebook apps that were built on Facebook, or these games, or maybe they built a media company off of the back of Facebook, a lot of them went to zero because they didn't really figure out how to differentiate, and they put too much risk on one platform. So if you put too much risk on OpenAI, for example, they're just going to build something that might just kill you next day.
Yeah, I think what you can do if you want to build on top of OpenAI's API and you have, let's say as a creator, you might have customers for your courses or memberships or whatever you offer, then you can do something useful. Let's say I wanted to do something for Virtual Summit. I have a lot of templates, a lot of stuff we have done for 9+ years. I could take this and make an AI version of this basically, and people can just answer a few questions. Instead of giving people all my prompts or whatever you need to get this information, I have it behind the scenes, and then actually they are getting that. But they would get that when they sign up for this program or when they work with me or something like that. I think that is that's a good use case for the everyday creator or whatever you're doing in your business, I think.
Navid, you know what you can do? You can take the idea, instead of charging $5 to $10 a month for the coach, you have the Navid, the coach, you give it away for free, but then that coach actually upsells you into the other things that you offer.
I might do that on my site. I'm already considering this. We are basically launching with this series. We're doing like Creator School, this like new brand. I'm going to put in Virtual Summit Mastery and a lot of things in there. I just figured it would be a lot easier to branch out from just being summits. That's why I got bored for a while. And now I'm coming back. And no, I got a lot of ideas for do it better. That's why I came back and wanted to do this series. I was like, everyone was doing it the same way. You know what I mean? Then you get bored. You have to reiterate. You have been in marketing for such a long time. You see trends come and go. I think that's what you have to do. I don't know. What do you see as the next thing that you will focus on, Eric? You're doing a lot of things, but what is the main thing you're doubling down on to actually grow your business and scale?
I think if you asked me 5-10 years ago, I was always trying to do the next thing, right? So one moment there's like the education thing, and then there's a SaaS thing, and then there's like there's a book, and then there's another thing, and then there's a lot of angel investing in tech companies, and then there's the agency, right? It gets really overwhelming, and I think marketers tend to have a problem of shiny object syndrome, more so entrepreneurs, I should say. Mm-hmm. I'm getting to the point, I'm in my mid-30s now. I'm just like, the grass is greener where you water it. And I know that the agency business is a very good business. It's a great cash flow business. It can command strong enterprise value long term. And for me, I'm just going to keep growing my audiences. I'm just going to keep growing the business. And that's it. I'm tunnel vision. I'm not going to try to get distracted, because all you really need to do to build a generational business is to just stick with it, like I mentioned earlier, for 10, 20, 30 years or so. And most people just don't have the patience to do it. And most people get distracted by shiny object syndrome.
Yeah, talk about longevity. I had also Mark Joyner on the summit, and he's been around for 30+ years. I don't know if you're familiar with his work, but he's like, some people call him the godfather of digital marketing. And he's just, I like when someone has not just the business, but he also has the health. He ran like a marathon barefoot in his 40s, right? And he's ripped in his 50s now. That's pretty cool. That's the people I tend to look up to when it comes to, wow, they've been around. And typically, I've also people said, you don't need to be necessarily be passionate about everything you're doing in your business. A business is meant to make money. I think creators sometimes get that wrong. They just want to have, it should be fun to create the content, I guess. But it's at the end of the day, it's a business that should fuel everything else. And then you can do all the fun things you want to do. I think that's also what happened with me a little bit a few years ago. I was like, I'm bored of this summit thing. And then when I stopped doing, I did other things, shiny objects. Now I'm coming back. Things are going a lot better when I focus on what kind of got me here in the first place. Yep. So I don't know if you have something to share around that.
We tend to think that novelty is chasing the next shiny object, but the reality is true novelty comes from focusing on one thing and going very deep. It's the same thing with relationships too. So let's say in the beginning, you're chasing all these, whether it's men or you're chasing a lot of girls or whatever it is exactly. And you think you're being novel each time with each new person that you're dating. But then it's like, no, if you focus on one person as an example, then you get to go deep on like the travels that you go on, the experiences that you have. But that's the same thing with business too. And so for me, it's like, okay, if I go deep on the agency, we've acquired some companies in the last 2-3 years or so. We're going to acquire more companies. We're going to hire more amazing people. We're going to go into this new frontier of AI. We're going to try all these things. We're going to build a great company. And it's just like, that is true novelty at the end of the day. It's not every little thing under the sun.
Yeah. No, I'm just going to touch upon something. You said you acquire a lot of companies. Are you doing like Neil's model a little bit to get that companies that are maybe they have room for improvement, essentially? Like he acquired like Uber Suggest and he answered the public, and then he's like rebuilding it, making it a lot more fresh, and then they are doing a lot better. And even using it as a lead gen to some of these tools are the best lead gen ever for a business, I would say. That could be even the case in the AI revolution, right? Like people can use AI tools to actually use as lead gen to get a lot more people in for the business. So are you using it for this as well?
Yeah. So there's a funny story with Neil's first acquisition on Uber Suggest was he was sitting with me recording a podcast. I showed him a website I bought, and I bought a senior living website. So this is what shiny object syndrome, right? And I was ranking number 3 for the keyword senior living. And a week later, we were recording again in person, and he's like, look what I bought. And he bought Uber Suggest, right? He bought it for like 250 grand or something like that. And then now it does really well. And then later he started the agency, and then he bought Answer to Public maybe like a year or two ago. Now, he hasn't bought any agencies yet. I acquired 2 other ones in 2021. And actually the main agency I have, Single Grain, that was actually an acquisition too. So I've done a handful of agency ones. He's done a handful of software ones.
Were they direct competitors of yours that you acquired?
Correct. Yes.
Okay,
and some were more focused on SMB. Some were more focused on e-commerce. So that's what it was.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've seen in the content creation world, and Chandler Bolt did that for some self-publishing websites, I believe. I've seen his like for selfpublishing.com and self-publishing school. He bought a lot of websites, smaller and some bigger ones acquired. I think it's just smart because you get a lot of SEO value from this as well if they've been around for a while. So I think it's just it's good business. Have you another thing here, have you dabbled with the image AI and things like that for your business? A lot of people use the stock photos for the blog before and things like that. I think with image like Midjourney and DALL-E 3, Canva and tools like that, even Photoshop now is integrating a lot of AI. It's getting a lot easier for non-creatives to create really beautiful imagery.
Yeah, I think we do it for our email newsletter. I believe they use just DALL-E to do it, and the images look pretty good. That's what I would say.
Yeah. All right. And what do you see for SEO? Have you not used it for a blog yet, right? You have not tried it for the Single Grain blog?
I'm not sure. I don't think we're using it for the blog right now.
Okay, cool. I'm just seeing like from my end, I used some stock photos before. It didn't do too well. Now it's so easy. And even for thumbnails and stuff, I spoke to Matt Wolf. He's like big on the AI on YouTube. He's like, every single thumbnail is basically generated by AI with a touch of his work, like with stable diffusion or something like that to get his face on there as well. It's really cool. I mean, for his work, it makes sense because he can just, all his thumbnails look pretty amazing. I was surprised that it was just AI generated.
Got it. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm going to take a look at his channel afterwards because he really built his brand in the last year or two off the AI stuff.
Yeah, no, he's exploded basically. It was a really insightful session. I think he shared a lot of stuff that he didn't share anywhere else because he just talked about AI on his channel, but I talked like how he built it up in 1 year. But you have the personal brand and you have your agency brand. How do you feel that your personal brand is fueling into everything you are doing for your business? Similar to Neil a little bit. He had this massive site, right? And that helped him to build this 9-figure agency.
Yeah. So let's see. The good thing is, I mean, his company's called MP Digital, so it's tied with his name. Single Grain isn't tied to my name, so it makes it like you want to build a company to sell, not because you want to sell it, but more so because you want to structure it in a proper way. And so for my personal brand, the way I see it is I just love learning and teaching at the end of the day, which is what I'm doing right now, or for marketing school or for leveling up. And that is just who I am fundamentally. And that is what in one of our core values as a company. That is just me living me. And sometimes I will say things that aren't necessarily good for the company, right? And I just see that continue to compound over decades. And on the single grain side, we're really focused on the blog. We're focused on doing more partner webinars. We're focused on doing more partnerships. And then we do events as well. So it is a little different than what I do for myself. For myself, it's just me learning and teaching.
Yeah, because I think you published a book, Leveling Up, right? So that's more personal. But did that help you in terms of the business side, or was that just more of a passion thing you did to grow your personal brand, YouTube channel, and all this?
Oh yeah, it totally didn't help with the business, because it's like a book on personal habits and looking at life as a game. That satisfied my own intellectual curiosity. It helped me with my personal brand, but definitely not with the business.
Are you doing anything besides like the channels on YouTube? You can make money on the AdSense and stuff like that. But for your personal brand, are you doing anything to monetize the knowledge more? You mentioned the AI, the chat with Neil. You can have to monetize. Anything else you do on your personal side to monetize knowledge? I know you don't sell really courses and stuff like that anymore.
So both Neil and I, because we've sold courses in the past, we've just realized that when you have an agency, the client lifetime value is a lot higher. And so it's just better to focus on that. So what I will say is, with a lot of the content that we put out, we try to drive them to my email list. And our email list, we have someone that's focused on it. He used to work at Agora, which is a large newsletter business. And we pump out 5 or 6 news. We send out 5-6 times a week. And it's not like, come buy my course or register for my webinar. It's just constant content. It's nonstop content, right? And we're driving paid ads to that. And then there might be some ads for single grain or events inside of the actual content itself, which is a little more native. But that's something I'm really excited about. And for us, again, it's just like keep building the audience, and the ones that are interested later, they can either fall to the events or they can fall to the agency.
Yeah, because I've seen you host these mastermind events, right? I guess that's one way you do monetize, and that's probably higher ticket as well. That's how you do it?
Correct.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, we're going to work towards wrapping up. I have a few more questions. What's your number one piece of advice you would give creators who want to get into this world and start implementing AI in their business and build something sustainable for the long term?
Yeah, I'll just speak about what I would do. What I would do is, let's say I was starting from scratch for the podcast side of things. I would go and create podcasts first, do a good job with it, start to get some traction with it before I even think about AI. And then I'll think about leveraging the power of the thumbnails that you're talking about. So we can use software for that. And then I might think about dubbing down the road. Once I think I have product market fit with my audience, then I'll think about dubbing it. But ultimately, I think it's a lot of people that are saying we're creating this AI strategy right now. A lot of it's experimental. And I'll just say, I'm just going to continue to experiment, which is what I feel like I'm doing right now. I feel like a lot of these conversations that people are having, people are building these tools. We're all just experimenting. We're all just 3-year-olds that are teaching 2-year-olds. And the difference between a 3-year-old is that they're actually out there doing it.
Yeah, totally. And just going on this question, what if you lost everything? You don't have even your agency, you're losing your personal brand. You had to start over completely to build up as a content creator, but also like your business. How would you actually leverage AI and your skills that you have acquired to get a competitive edge and advantage in this market?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd leverage AI necessarily. You're saying, so if I lost everything, I still had the knowledge that I had?
You have the knowledge. Yeah, exactly. You have the knowledge because you have acquired it all the time. You just lost everything. Maybe something happened, whatever. Yeah.
I would just start doing what I'm doing again. It goes back to the focus thing again. So it's a very boring answer, but I would go back to start creating content again. I just focus on podcasts, focus on LinkedIn and Twitter, like I told you. And then I would go try to figure out who I can partner with on the agency side, because a lot of agencies right now are struggling with pipeline. They're struggling with churn. And so how can I go partner up with someone? Say, hey, I built this agency before, I built this brand before, and why don't we work on an equity deal? And then perhaps you can let me have an option or first right of refusal to buy more equity at this date. And so I would just work out deals and then maybe go acquire other agencies and maybe roll them up. That's what I would do.
And how long would you say it would take you to go, let's say, to the 6-figure to $1 million level? With your skills, like what would you say if you didn't have anything today? What would you say it would take to actually get it back there to the? I know you're an 8-figure company, right, with agency, I believe.
Yeah, I think within the first year, it could be a 7 or 8-figure thing. It's just a matter of structuring the deals the right way and figuring out. I mean, business is very simple, right? It's where are you getting your customers from, and then how are you serving your customers, And so I just need to figure out those two equations and we're good.
Awesome. And the final question is, was there any question you wanted me to ask, but I didn't? Or do you have any final words of wisdom for anyone watching this or listening in?
Yeah, I think my final words of wisdom, and thank you for this, Navid, it was great. I would just say that AI is very much in its infancy right now, and take your time with it. Focus on the standard blocking and tackling, focus on what's in front of you, and don't get too distracted by the latest tools, because I've had a history of getting too distracted by tools. Focus on what's actually working for you, and then maybe 20% of the time you're experimenting with AI, because I do think it'll be helpful, but you have to stay focused.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for taking the time to come on here, Eric. I link up your website, your YouTube channel with Marketing School, and your personal one as well. And if you have any takeaways for what we shared here, leave it in the comments. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more if you enjoy this, like the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao for now. Peace.